Hello everyone, and welcome to New Orleans, Louisiana. Today, on this weekend, we are going to be seeing the world's largest steam locomotive, also known as the Union Pacific Big Boy number 4014. After we saw that freight train pass, we got there the next day, started walking on the levee that helped stop flood after Hurricane Katrina came through New Orleans and flooded most of the city.
New Orleans, Louisiana.
It'll be stopped the entire day until tomorrow, where we'll be going over the Huey P. Long Bridge. The locomotive plate, built in November 1941, the Union Pacific Big Boy is the world's largest steam locomotive, built in 1941 just as America was attacked at Pearl Harbor. The Union Pacific steam crew is getting ready and setting up the microphone for Ed Dickens' speech.
Question 45, 55 miles an hour.
Thank you much. Noah, look at me. Noah, look at me. Noah.
From Mobile, Alabama. How big are the wheels?
Noah, look at me.
Very good question, Hunter. So let's talk a little bit about the nomenclature and the identification numbers underneath the cab. So back on the cab you've got 4 884, so we've got 4 wheels in the front, the first set of 8 here, the second set of 8 drivers, and then 4 trailing truck wheels. So there's your 4 884. And the second number is the class designation. These were built in 2 classes. This is the first series, the 4000 to the 4019, and the 48841. Here's your answer to your question, Hunter. They're 68 inches in diameter. The UP wanted 70, or bigger, but they just couldn't fit this design with a 70-inch wheel, so they had to compromise with 68. They were able to go with a 69-inch driver on the Challengers. The bigger the diameter, the faster the locomotive, and that's what the UP wanted. They wanted a big, fast locomotive.
I'll see your papa. Thank you very much. I was just wondering how long would it take? Oops, I'm sorry.
Well, that's a good question. It took us 2.5 years. So there's a lot of work, and we took the locomotive completely apart. So if you were at our shop back from late 2017 until early 2019, you would see all the big giant pieces of this locomotive scattered throughout our facility. We removed the front engine and disassembled it down to bare metal and sandblasted everything. Same thing on the engine truck, trailing truck, replaced new wheels on the front, on the back, new tires, new crank pins, lots of heavy-duty work. This component right here, crosshead guide, that's brand new. The valve rod guide right here, that's brand new. The pistons are welded and built up with the new valve ring design, as are new valve bushings and rings, and I could just go on all the great new parts that we made. That was our plan in order to successfully operate a locomotive like this. It's got to be as new as we can make it. And that was one of the most exciting days of my career when I got to mention that as we started this project. We want to make it as good as we can make it.
Okay, Ed, we have another question from a member of our online audience. Mike,
Traffic. So then they began to run what was known as an extra. And so that number on the train indicator boards, that's what those are up there. The X simply is a placeholder for a numerical designation. The railroads got into the practice of just keeping that X up in the box, and even into the 1960s and early 1970s you would see that with diesels. So the X simply designates that the train would be extra 4014 west. So in all correspondence between dispatchers and train operators, that's how they would designate.
What time do you and the
crew plan on firing the locomotive up and getting ready to go?
His question was what time we're going to get things ready to go in the morning, and we'll start lighting the locomotive up about 5. We're going to stay here until just right around 8 o'clock, and then we're going to pull right around the corner, not this crossing, but the next crossing, and load our passengers for tomorrow's excursion. So if you're here anytime before 8 o'clock, you'll be able to see the preparation activities. Right about 8, as I mentioned, we'll start heading out onto what we call the main track, and we'll pick up our passengers. Now, if you're waiting along the way, and you're following us on our tracker map on upsteam.com, you'll notice there's a lot of time between when we leave here and our first stop. And that is we've got a few tight curves to make, and we've got lots of gyrations. We've got 10 miles an hour over the Big Huey Long Bridge. We've got to pick up some pilot crews, so we've got a lot of logistics, and that's what you're seeing in our schedule. So be patient as you're waiting there, and keep your ears peeled. When you hear that mournful whistle blowing, we won't be far away.
It is hot out here in New Orleans. We have another question. I just say that apropos of nothing, but we have another question from a member of our online audience. It's Linda Traugut, and she wants to know, does the same crew travel with Big Boy throughout the tour?
The question is about our crew and the same crew. Yes, we are the same crew that's with the locomotive all the time. On our crew, everybody pretty much does everything. So we fire the locomotive, we operate the locomotive, we service the locomotive, and as I mentioned at the start of our presentation, we've got our staff, Austin on the other side working, everybody back there working. So we're the crew that's with it the entire time. The philosophy of having a big locomotive and everything that's necessary to keep the locomotive up and running is that there requires just a lot of specialization. Lots of specialized equipment, lots of specialized care, and lots of specialized skill. So we're the same crew that does everything. We're the same crew that rebuilt it. We're the same crew that runs it. We're the same crew that greases it. We're the same crew that's with it. No one else's hands touch the locomotive except ours. And right here in front of me is some of those very talented hands is Ted Schulte. Ted is just an outstanding steam locomotive fireman. He's an excellent steam locomotive engineer. And as you can see, he's helping carry some tools and just do all the routine work. There's a lot of work that goes into this locomotive. A lot of work.
Okay, Ed, we have time for a few more questions here.
Hello, I'm Caleb Hamilton from Mobile Bay, Alabama. What's it like working on an engine like this?
That's a good question. Well, it's an experience of a lifetime, but it's very, very hard work. It's good work. There was a time in America's past, there's a lot of really good trades today that are hard, good, old-fashioned work ethic trades. That's what a steam locomotive is. There's no air conditioning up here. There's no air conditioning on the locomotive. Nearly all of the tools, except for maybe a battery-operated flap disc drill or a grinder, most of the tools and equipment are all manually operated. So you develop a certain skill and a certain appreciation for that work. But to answer your question, it's also satisfying, it's also tiring.
And I would like to ask, during World War II, how many cars could the Big Boy pull?
That's a good question, and if you Google that, you're going to get all kinds of different answers. But generally, it's going to depend on the grade. On flat, level ground, a Big Boy could pull many, many cars, hundreds of cars. From a practical standpoint, they were designed to produce sufficient power to pull 3,600 tons, and eventually that number crept up to 4,000 tons between Ogden and Green River. So when you take the freight cars of that era, you're talking maybe 60, 70 car train up a 1% grade. The train that we would pull today, this could easily pull a coal train, empty of course, loaded as well, but it's going to depend on what kind of grade.
Ed, do you have time for one more question?
We got plenty of time.
Great.
asked
Hi,
about
my
the
name is
diesel.
Joseph. So, whenever like y'all go on a curve, does the boiler like stay in place, or like does it kind of like move to the side, or like what?
Well, that's a good question. This is an articulated locomotive, and the boiler is rigid. So from the front of the smoke box, right above me, all the way to the back of the cab is one rigidly constructed pressure vessel. Firebox on one end, smoke box on the other end. The front engine articulates in relation to the rear engine. And so there's what's known as a centering device, just right back here, and a centering device spring. And that, when the frame, beginning with the front two wheels and the front four-wheel engine truck begins to encounter a curve, it starts to influence that front engine as it follows the track. Well, then the centering device mechanism will gradually start to apply spring pressure and move the boiler, and therefore the rigidly connected rear engine will follow that same spring influence pressure.
I think that's about. Thank you.
Somebody runs up there and gets hit, we gotta go over pictures.
A little bit later in the day, we got to go back and see the Union Pacific again. Then I decided to do a whole train showcase. And in the midst of doing that, I got to cross Ed Dickens. There's Ed Dickens right there.
I think that was Ed Dickens. The last car right here. In Kingsfield.
Here it is, the moment I've actually been waiting for. The shot where we actually get to talk to Mr. Ed Dickens.
So
is that your dad? You'll have to arm wrestle for it.
Oh, flip it and you fall inside.
What I want to do is take a picture of you using my stove.
Sure.
Greg was explaining to me that you're the main man here.
Big cheese of it all.
And all that. So I'm just going to, you've got your, I thought about letting you present the pins to me, but they're not going to show up in the newspaper.
Yeah.
And then, the next thing I want to do is get your address and I'll send you copies.
Okay.
Of the story. It probably won't, we're a week, and it probably won't be this week because I'm going to come in behind.
That's all right.
I'm coming off down here to start with. Walk over the stove just a little. Let me just take a close up of it. And would you take a picture with them and with me?
Sure.
Because he's the one that, you want me to do a cell phone too?
Sure.
That's what I'm primarily putting my stuff on. So you want to do stuff with a paper too?
I'm a camera snob. It's really looking bright what to do. But I learned to take cell phone pictures too. I got somebody, you want me to do it horizontal?
Either way, however you want to do it.
It looks good here, so let's do it. Okay?
Thanks, sir.
And then, oh, it's ready to go.
Okay. You want a portrait?
Just vertical will be fine. I can order these hats online. Okay, I started to borrow his hat, but I'm going to order me one.
There you go.
Yeah.
I had gone down to the tower and he was down on the front end, and all I was worried about was trying to get the sun off my face at this point.
Yeah.
And
I thought about it after we left, and I didn't know how late y'all would be settled, but I sure wanted something from this.
I'm just glad we could still get in after 5 o'clock because I was worried that we wouldn't be able to. We got some good gold hours.
I got some beautiful pictures. And we're not gonna chase far because we gotta head back to Alabama, but we are gonna try to get some in the morning.
Definitely gonna
Well,
try to
it's
see
going
you
to take us a while to get up and over the bridge, so be patient.
Yep.
Yeah.
Figured so. I heard you kind of describing how the tight turns and all that kind of stuff.
Well, we're only about 5.5 to 6 hours to his house in Auburn. Now I got another hour and a half, 2 hours. That's all right. I made detour through Cusetta because the CSX AMWP runs it all through Auburn. And I live about 2 miles from the CSX line. I live 2 miles from the line was in line. Just out of the line was Alabama City. So it is so nice just to see something different.
Yeah.
This is about as different as you can get in the U.S.
We do get DNSF run through that comes from LA to LaGrange, Georgia, then up. And we see UP once in a while. We haven't seen many UP on that.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of right.
But
coming
now,
from the guys up.
AMWP, where he lives, we get a lot of UP traffic and UP locomotives.
Yeah.
But,
All in the freight.
Yep.
and,
Making that money.
And I love your 225 and 226 that run on NS. 225
Appreciate
usually a little too early, but
There you go.
they're loaded trains. Yeah, I've had my shots and all, but I'm still being careful.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. All right, well, I better get back in there and check on the
Well,
guys.
we much appreciate your time.
My pleasure, you guys. Thanks for coming all this way
Your address.
to see this. My email is real simple.
Next day, we got to see the big boy going over the Huey P. Long Railroad Bridge. And I also noticed on the front of the locomotive that the big boy was chalked back in.
They rewrit Big Boy.
There's Terry Atkinson on the bottom left.
That was great.
This is the final shot we will get of the big boy going through the state of Louisiana. Turns out, a few hours after we caught this one last shot, the big boy almost ran out of water and had to stop somewhere in Louisiana. I don't know where, but it had to stop somewhere. I hope you guys liked this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share on this video. And, as always, go rail fans of all over the country.